Hi there guys, welcome to another episode. We've done all of the mechanical work that I know so far needs doing. So before it goes for its MOT, I've got a couple of bodywork bits that need to get sorted. So we know that the bottom half of that sill there, here, has got some slight holes in it. So I'm going to put a little plate over those holes there. There's one there and there's one there. And it's pretty much the same on the other side. Now the front wing is slightly different. We've got this massive hole in the front here. Now I don't really want to change the front wing, so I'm going to repair this hole. As you can see, it's got one through the front here and it's got one in the bottom as well. So what I'm going to do, rather than replacing this entire wing, which you can't buy from the scrapyard because they are welded here, I think the rest of it is bolted on, but down here it's welded on, so they don't take them off at the scrapyard, so you have to buy a new wing, and I don't really want to do that because there's nothing really wrong with this wing. So what I'm going to do is make a new plate that goes under here and attaches onto the bottom of that sill, and I will cut it and replace it at that line there, so it'll keep the original body shape on it. It's going to be a bit of work here because this kind of sticks out here, so it goes nice and evenly along there and then it kind of turns out a bit there, so that's going to be interesting to get it sorted out. And then it's obviously rounded around there, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm quite looking forward to the challenge. So we're going to go off into the metal workshop and I'm going to cut out some metal, and then we're going to bend this first 90 degree here. My plan is to then be able to clamp it to this edge here and then be able to bend this for hand, at least to get it roughly around there, and then I'll have to tweak it just to make sure that that really fits really nicely along there, and then I'm going to have to bend this piece out here somehow. So we'll start off by bending these pieces and we'll see how we go from there. So this is a tape measure I use. I quite like it, been using them for many years. They've got quite a good function, quite a few functions on them. So you can use that if you're going to measure something internally, like the width of my GoPro screen, like that. You can measure them, you can measure obviously normally the width of my GoPro screen, but it does have another feature which is specifically for metalworking. So I'm going to put that at 3 centimeters, which is what I want. And then I can take my piece of metal, and it's got a little edge on the back of here, and I hope you can see it with this camera flicking. There's a little edge on the back there, which means that I can set it up and I can draw a nice line all the way across there at exactly 3 centimeters. So now I can go over and bend that. There we go, 90 degree bend. Right, so this is our piece now then. Now, as you can see, it's miles too long, and I don't mind that because it gives me a little bit extra material to work with. So I'm going to put this and clamp it along there, and then I'm going to try and probably heat it very slightly and bend it around that piece of metal as much as I possibly can. It may even be easier to clamp it further along here now I'm looking at it, because the bodywork's probably slightly stronger along there for me to be able to bend it. I think what's going to happen if I bend it along there, it's going to crumple the wing, but the sill is the same all the way along the sill, so I can probably bend it against the sill if I open the door. Let's give it a go. Might not actually need to heat that up. That doesn't look too bad actually. Quite surprised how that went. Obviously when I let go of it, it relaxes slightly, so it needs a better bend across there, or it needs straightening out. That's a 90 degree bend there, and this is obviously a bit less than a 90 degree bend, but that shape Wasn't too bad at all, actually. Well, that doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Like I say, it's going to need a bit of a tweak around here, but it's not too bad. I think what I can do now is make a mark. So I want this to cut about there. And we want to make a mark all the way along this piece of metal here. So really scientifically, need to cut that off. Right, so I've left probably about 1 centimetre on this side because I noticed that the panel does actually fold around itself, so I'll be able to fold that around. I've also left about nearly 2 centimetres on this side because it does bend that way around the inside of the inner wing. So this is too much material, so I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to get the angle grinder out and cut along this line here, and then the top line across there. And that makes this shape fairly good as a start point, really. So I'm going to cut these now with the angle grinder, and then we'll fit it back up again against the car, because we've still got that bend to do. Right, so I've just been going around with the hammer and dolly, and that is pretty perfect now. And that's all just with the hammer and dolly, just bending it a little bit, testing it, bending it a little bit, testing it. So that side, I'm quite happy with that top lip. Quite happy with that. I know it's too long, but once I get it in place, I'll be able to trim it down to the correct size. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. So on the back of here now, what I'm going to do is several little slits into that line so that I can bend each one of these up here, and then I'll be able to trim them into triangles, and as I bend them up I'll be able to have a little gap that I can weld together, and it'll all be one seam in the end of it. So a few cuts along here and then bend it all up and it'll be good to go. So this has literally took me an hour, and that fits really, really well. I'll be able to tack all of those ends up now to make sure that it doesn't lose its shape that way. Then I'm going to get a scriber and scribe onto the wing exactly where I want it to be, and then I'll cut the patch to the wing so that I know exactly where it's going to be. But as a replacement panel, that's not bad at all. You'll never even know that that has been taken off of there, I think. So that's the first tacks in place there. This piece needed a few more tacks just to hold it in place so that I can adjust it slightly. But that, I don't think that looks bad. These gaps are really nice and tight. They're really close. That looks like it was made for the job, I think. It's time to weld all of that edge. Now what I'm going to do, as you'll see, I've welded a spot there, a spot there, a spot there, a little bit longer here, but now I'm going to put a spot in between each one of them, and then I'll be welding a spot, 2, 3, and I'll cool it, weld 1, 2, 3, and cool it, weld 1, 2, 3, and cool it, 1, 2, 3, cool. Basically so that I don't put too much heat into this panel and warp this panel completely. I don't want to send the wing off in weird directions. I want to keep as little heat in this panel as possible. So I'll put 2 or 3 welds there, and then I'll cool it so that I can touch it. Then I'll put another few welds, cool it with air so that I can touch it, and then I'll continue all the way along this panel until I've welded all of that. And then I'll be able to massage the bottom down here to get it as I want it to be around there, and then I can drill some holes in there and tack it to the seam on the inside. Right, that is that all tacked up now. Looking at my camera, it took just under 6 minutes to weld all of that panel up. Now I'm going to grind all that down, and pretty much the same technique. I don't want to be grinding in that spot there and then that spot there. I want to grind uniformly over the whole panel so that I don't get too much heat built up in one single spot. So I'll probably move like that with the grinder so that I don't put too much heat in one spot and warp the panel from grinding it. But that came out all right, that did. So that's the weld all nicely ground down now, looking quite neatly. I did actually take it with the proper angle grinder first, and then I went over with the little air driven angle grinder, just because the disc is so much thinner, so I could actually get into that groove there, which I couldn't do with the big angle grinder. So that was able to just get in there and round that edge off nice and neatly. Now there is a little bit of a low spot there, so that will need a bit of a filler in there. There's probably a little one here somewhere as well, so it will need a little bit of filler work on there just to even it out, but I'm expecting a little bit of filler to go in there. So the next job now is to weld up all of these little slits that I've made here, and then grind all this edge off to a nice rounded point, and then I can start to tack it into place against the body, and that will be that panel done. So now I need to spot weld that to the edge, and I'm going to be using one of these tools. So one end of this side here will actually make nice holes in metal when you squeeze it. The other side can actually bend the metal in 2 ways, so it'll give you like a little step. So if you're going to join 2 pieces of panel together, you can make a little step, and this part will tuck behind the original part. So these are quite handy little tools to use. And to make the little spot welds, is put the metal in there, put up as high as it'll go, and just squeeze it. And that makes me a nice little hole that I can spot weld to. There we go. So before I carry on with any more, I'm going to put a bit of primer behind the back of there, and then I can spot weld all this back together again. And that's that, all nice and neatly welded in. I think I've got quite a nice panel gap going up that door. I've managed to get the bend around there, so it looks, when it'll be painted, it'll look like, I think that'll be quite factory when it's painted. And it's got the nice lip around there for the inner wing to fit to. So it's going to need some primer on there now, and then it obviously need a little bit of filler here and there, but other than that, that's that done. So a quick before and after shot, and I think that looks all right. So a little bit of primer on there now, and I'm going to start on the holes up the back. So that's the front panel done on the car. So what's left to do now bodywork wise is the sills at the back and then the wheel arches. Now the wheel arches aren't an MOT failure, so those will get done after the MOT. So in the next video, I want to get those sills done, and that should be enough bodywork for it to get through the MOT. So if you like what you've seen in this episode, press that subscribe button. It's here or there maybe, or there. Somewhere. It's down here somewhere. But press that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow, and it gives me the opportunity to make more videos that I know that you guys like. So thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot, and bye bye.